Hello and welcome to the last of the ITN 2018 webinars from the Irish Marie Skłodowska-Curie office. My name is Elena Martinez. I am the national contact point for the Marie Skłodowska-Curie program in Ireland, based in the IUA with support from the Irish Research Council. In this webinar, I will give an overview of the implementation section and part B2. Webinar is part of a series of supports that our office has rolled out in support for applications to the ITN 2018 call. This support includes a handbook and webinars, which are downloadable from our website, and also on-site clinics and proposal reviews. The implementation section is the last section in the proposal template, which counts for 20% of the overall score. It is a very important section because it plays in tandem with the excellence section in terms of demonstrating the feasibility and credibility of the research and training program that is proposed in the excellence section. The implementation section is divided into four subsections, which are coherence and effectiveness of the work plan, that's 3.1, 3.2, which deals with the management structure and procedures of the consortium, 3.3, which is about the infrastructure of the participants, and 3.4, which deals with the competence, experience, complementarity, and commitment of the participants. So starting from section 3.1, there are a number of subheadings within each section that the template defines, so do use the subheadings. The first one is work packages description, which includes table 3.1a. Use this table to describe the work packages. It is typical to include 3 to 4 research work packages, which should match the description already given in section 1.1 in methodology. Also include non-research work packages, such as a management work package, a training work package, and a work package covering the dissemination, exploitation, communication, and public engagement aspects of the program. Break down each work package into several tasks. It is typical to have 3 to 6. And define the role of each participant by using the organization short names from participants table and indicate which participant is responsible for each task. Indicate timescales for the tasks in months elapsed from the start of the project and ensure that everything matches the details given elsewhere in the application and in particular. So the other subheadings in this section are about deliverables and milestones. Table 3.1b will be used to define the deliverables. A deliverable is a distinct output of the project, such as a report, a journal paper, a conference paper, a book chapter, a document, a technical diagram, a software, so training, which would be a document defining the training program, and so on. Both research and non-research deliverables must be described. And remember that deliverables will have to be delivered to the project officer during the implementation, so keep them feasible and to a minimum, however, still to a number that will reflect the ambition of your program. Table 3.1c asks to define the milestones, which are control points in the project that help to chart the progress. The milestones may correspond to the completion of a key deliverable, allowing the next phase of the work to begin. 6 to 8 major research and non-research milestones, such as recruitment of all fellows, which will be a non-research milestones, are sufficient. And there should be more deliverables than milestones. Another subheading is the individual research projects, again to be defined in table 3.1d, which provides a template for each individual research project. Aim for each table to take about half a page and provide as much detail about the project as possible, including details of tasks and methods. The evaluators look very closely at the individual projects, again to assess the feasibility and credibility of the program and of the individual projects themselves. It is appropriate to have a certain degree of interdependency between individual projects because this will support the cohesiveness of the program. However, it is good to plan for mitigation and contingency of the related risks which derive from interdependency between projects in the risk table in 3.2. A last subheading in this section 3.1 would be the Gantt chart, which will be defined in another page further on. Section 3.2 This section asks to define the management and procedures of the consortium. And the subheadings, there are a number of subheadings defined here that are inspired by the Erasmus Mundus Handbook of Excellence in Doctoral Training. So this paragraph that is reported here will give a sense of all the different aspects that have to be considered when managing an excellent doctoral training. And the subheadings precisely reflect that. The program will have to be managed via a series of gender balance committees, and the supervisory board in particular will be the main decision-making body. It is good to have all the beneficiaries and partner organizations represented in the supervisory board, including 1 or 2 ESR representatives, which could actually rotate among the ESRs. This is a suggested management structure. Of course, for a small 2-beneficiary EID consortium, this structure would be redundant, so it has to be adapted to the size of your consortium. So in terms of the structure of 3.2, again, use the subheadings provided, use the Erasmus Mundus document chapter 4 to assist you. There are other things, a number of other things to add in, and you can find more details in our handbook as well. You will have to define a strategy for dealing with scientific misconduct. In terms of network organization and management structure, you will have to explain the decision-making processes, such, for example, how will you vote on a certain decision, will you use a majority rule, and conflict resolution strategy. Also, you will be asked to define the progress monitoring and evaluation of individual projects, and these can link back to what you will have written in section 1.3 under supervision. Focus on timings and structures here, and individual supervisory committees will feed back into the oversight committee, which will again include the harmonization and coherence of the supervision and monitoring process across. There are more things to add in. This is not an exhaustive list. Risk management is an important aspect, so include research risks and also project management risks, and both mitigation and contingency plans for both. There is a table provided, and we have the same table in our handbook. So both mitigation and contingency, which are 2 different things. When you identify a risk, mitigation is about what you will do to try and avoid that risk happens, while contingency is what will you do if that risk actually happens. So they're 2 different things. In terms of recruitment, centralized recruitment is best. Describe the application process, the applicant requirements, the decision-making process. Use the EURAXESS jobs to advertise, and explain the employment conditions of the fellows, knowing that employment contracts for doctoral candidates recruited under ITNs are mandatory. In terms of the overall quality assurance, you can use an external review and monitoring process by an independent panel and an external advisory group. Internal communication strategy to keep the consortium and the ESRs in regular contact is very important, and this can be a mix of online tools but also face-to-face contact. Gender issues, explain how the consortium is gender balanced and how you will ensure that a mix of female and male fellows are recruited. In terms of intellectual property management, define how you have decided to allocate the intellectual property in your consortium and involve the technology transfer office of your institution. If you're not opting out of the open data pilot, you will have to define your data management plan as well. Specifically for EJD and EID, a joint governing structure will have to be defined. So applicants will describe the structures that will be put in place to oversee the doctoral program and ensure quality control, making sure that the various administrative units across the participant with responsibility for doctoral programs are working in a coherent and coordinated manner. The Doctoral Studies Committee in the management structure could include a representative from the Graduate Studies Office or the equivalent. And one issue to specifically address is that of mutual recognition. It is important that the research training done at participant A is recognized by participant B for the purposes of earning a doctoral degree, and you can use ECTS credits to help you in this process. Still more for EJD and EID. Admission, selection, supervision, monitoring, and assessment should be coherent across the consortium because they should be a joint process. As far as possible, the same procedures should be applied to each ESR. So for example, in terms of monitoring, if University A requires a yearly report and University B requires a quarterly report, will the fellows have to do both to gain a joint degree or a double degree? And in terms of assessment, again, if a university does a closed viva voce while a University B does an open thesis defense, will a fellow have to do both to be awarded a joint or double degree? So these are all details to be defined, discussed with the partners, and then written down. Moving on to section 3.3, it's about the infrastructure. So the aim here is to explain who is doing what and show that they have the necessary infrastructure to do it. There is also section 5, which includes a capacities table for each participant. This section and section 5 work in tandem and should complement each other and not duplicate each other. So here you can use some narrative to describe how the consortium has the necessary infrastructure, both in terms of research but also administration, to implement all the aspects of the proposal, such as research training, administration, communications, exploitation, and so on. In terms of technical infrastructure, so research infrastructure, I would add if the field of the proposal is such that it requires specific equipment, for example, or other infrastructure or data sets or other aspects that have specific names and specific specifications, these can be listed by and named in almost a list in the section 5 table, as opposed to having a list here. Describe how the consortium provides an excellent environment for hosting and supporting the fellows. So if the organizations have endorsed the charter and code, say it. And if the organizations have earned the HR Excellence in Research logo, again, mention it and add the logo in the capacities table. A mention about EURAXESS. This is a one-stop shop centralized support service on issues related to mobility, including immigration, so it's very relevant to Marie Skłodowska-Curie Fellows. There is a website in each European country and beyond, and it is linked to the central EU EURAXESS site, which includes a jobs portal, a CV database, and practical advice on moving. Most Irish higher education institutions are EURAXESS local contact points, and there is a list on the website. So you can mention this in the proposal if you as a coordinator are one. And finally, section 3.4 deals with competences, complementarity, and commitment of the different participants. So explain how the consortium are the best people to implement this program, including the complementarities and synergies between all participants, and how these will be exploited to deliver an excellent program. You can use a diagram or a table here again. How their previous experience makes them suitable for their tasks here. And again, part of this information more technical details of this can be referred to in section 5 in the capacities table, for example, in terms of outputs as well in supervisory experience. Outline the commitment of each participant by showing that they are all highly active in the project and refer to earlier sections, and highlight again here, strong non-academic sector involvement. For partner organizations, ensure that the content of their letter of commitment matches their stated tasks in the program. And if you have a beneficiary from a country who cannot automatically get funding from Horizon 2020, you need to explain why they are necessary. So this is the end of the implementation section. And moving on to part B2, which starts with the capacities table. In section 5, this table is more important than you think, because a lot of the information, and particularly the dry tabular information that you wouldn't have mentioned in the proposal, can be referred to here. So it is taken into account in many evaluation sub-criteria. It can include HR logos. It can include percentage time commitment for all PIs, and here you can make sure that the non-academic supervisors are very strong in terms of research outputs and expertise by again reiterating the hard evidence such as bibliographic metrics and other measures of esteem, for example. You will have to state if the beneficiaries have independent premises, and ideally the answer should always be yes, because if no, there might be an issue with operational capacity. And this can be particularly relevant to startups or academic spin-outs that might have non-independent premises from their academic laboratories. And finally, as already mentioned, this list should be used to list individual supervisors' expertise through metrics, other measures of esteem, and can list technical details of infrastructure if relevant. There are also ethics issues to be defined. This is the link for self-assessment that where you will find further guidance in the same. Section 7 is about letters of commitment. For all ITNs, the partner organizations have to provide letters of commitment. The content here is very important. Generic letters are not useful. They have to contain specific information about the role and participation of the partner organizations in the tasks allocated to them in the proposal and their commitment to do so. For European joint doctorate, it is necessary to provide letters of commitment from the beneficiaries as well, and in particular from the academic beneficiaries that will award the doctoral degrees. So they have to show an explicit commitment to award and deliver a joint or multiple degree program. So these letters have to be signed by a person authorized to commit the beneficiary, in this case the university for example, to award a joint degree program. For example, the Dean of Graduate Studies. So this is the end of this webinar. I hope you found it useful. So if you have any questions, please email our mariecurie@iua.ie mailbox. We will answer your question, and we will also add it to a full frequently asked questions document that will be made available on our website. Thank you and good luck.